Good evening and welcome to another night of painting miniatures. The intro music you just heard was my good friend Chillian, and the track is called Secret Muse. Something he specifically made for me to use for streams, my presentation videos and so on. So big thank you to you. I really appreciate it, mate. The music we're hopefully listening to now is Adrian von Ziegler. Yep. Who is a very talented Swiss, I believe, composer who does a lot of cool music. Check him out on Bandcamp, or I think it's Bandcamp he's on. I'll put some links in the description for all of this. He's also on YouTube, various places, Spotify. Check him out. It's really good instrumental, atmospheric music. Great for role-playing games, great for de-stressing from work, great for painting miniatures too. So, hope you enjoy it. And let's get cracking. So what we have today is that we're continuing a little bit on the robots from one-page rules. As you can see, I've got a bunch of them ready. The last time we streamed, I've done the same for most of the other ones. Just done the cloaks. So we're gonna need to be doing the bases on a whole bunch of these. And other than that, we have a bit of a challenge because 3 of these ones did not have any capes, do not really have any sort of features standing out. I mean, there's so many details. Really love these models, but seriously, they're robots. I mean, how much color can you put on robots? And you could put an infinite amount of robots on. This dude here, he's got some skulls on his called shoulder pads and the backpack or back sort of armor plate. Definitely gonna turn those more skull-like. But what I was considering doing with especially this little dude is to give him a bit of a sort of camouflage, I think it's called a ghillie suit. So basically he is listed as a sniper, but again, no cloak, nothing really. And I mean, I could add a little bit of coloring here and there, maybe some wear and tear. I might add some rust effects if I feel creative. Or I could just pelter him with small rocks, the stuff I usually use for bases. Like you see the one spinning, that small tufts, maybe a bit of grass here and there, stuff like that. Just glue it to him as if he's trying to camouflage himself. I don't know. I have no idea how it's gonna how it's gonna come out, but I'm going to try it. And we'll see where we end up. And if it doesn't work, excuse me, if it doesn't work, it doesn't really matter, because one of the really cool things about one-page rules who made these robots is you get the STL files. If I don't like it, I can just print out a new one. And yes, it takes some time, and yes, it requires you having a 3D printer, but once you have those things, time and a printer, then it's super cool, super easy. The models are really cool, really fine details. They printed off straight from the files they added. I used their combined modules, combined files, combined models. They also have individual stuff like heads and arms and legs and stuff like that, so you can assemble your models yourself if you want. I've assembled way too many models. I'm lazy and dull, and I just want some small puppets to play with. So I just took their combined models, printed them out in one go, no errors whatsoever, and I've printed 15 models or so just from the Robot Legion thing. So it was 2 or 3 prints, no issues whatsoever. Everything was just fine, smooth. I mean, even the details on the Tri-Scorpion here, you can see the small arms it has. I was really pleasantly surprised when they didn't, break off, or when I removed the supports, still nothing breaking off, just the tips of the support snapping off, leaving virtually no marks. At least I haven't found any marks. So big shout out to one-page rules. Who knows, maybe one day I'll actually get around to playing the game. Maybe. Anyway, first up, we're just gonna do a bunch of tedious stuff for the bases, which is basically giving them a quick coat of white, then add some orange, and then glue on, you know, the rocks and tuft and stuff like that, and use some of the technical paints from Citadel. It's Martian Iron Earth I'm using for the bases for the main effect. It's a crackle paint, which I've really come to like and maybe rely on a bit too much, but it just gives very nice effect, and it's really simple. You just apply it, and the thickness of the layer you apply decides or influences how big the cracks or how big the sort of flakes left behind after the cracks are gonna be. I don't have an example ready, but you can see it on the rotating models. It's just, it adds that little bit of extra texture to the bases or whatever you put it on. At some point when I'm done with all the painting, I'm gonna go through. I have made a bunch of small mistakes, like, you know, painting the cloak or the main color for the cloak on top of the metallic parts, and you can see some of the orange is spilling a bit down into the rim of the base, but that's kind of, I'm just gonna do a quick cleanup of all of those things once I'm done. Don't want to do it until I actually painted the entire model. It's a bit like the concept of writing your novel before you actually start editing it. You can edit along the way, I guess, but just get it done and then go back and fine tune. So, cheers. Yes. So basically, all of this, we're gonna need painting handle. So yeah, so if anyone is watching, feel free to say hello in chat. Let me know how your day has been, what you're doing. Otherwise, I'll just sit here and yabber on for myself. Let's see here. Once I'm done with these models, which I don't know if I'll finish it on stream tonight, but I'll probably just crack through with the bases and stuff later tonight, and then it's just done. I really like actually doing. I know it's not a larger problem or project as such. I mean, it's only a handful of miniatures, you know, compared to people who paint entire armies in 24 hours, like Goobertown. I think Midwinter Minis did it as well. A couple of good YouTubers to follow. I mean, they have so much more experience and skills, and probably also time than I have, or at least more time than I set aside for painting. But to me, I mean, even though I know 15 models doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't a lot, it's just one of the larger projects for me lately, since I'm mostly painting you know, special characters for role-playing games, like my own character or the other ones in my gaming groups, you know, stuff like that. And I tend to spend a little bit more time on those because they're actual characters. I want them to, you know, look good and have a lot of fine details and stuff like that. It also means it takes a lot longer, usually several hours per mini. These ones I seem to be clocking in at around 40 or so minutes per model, including the bases, you know, the 5 you've seen spinning there. The actual painting was only around 30 minutes or so per mini. So it's the basing actually adds a lot more time, because that's where I'm, to be honest, with these models, that's where I'm most creative. You know, building up the base, trying to find a good balance, you know, sorting through. I'm gonna use the term rock rather loosely here, because it's not really rocks, it's actually small pieces of flakes of cork. So I sort of sift through that, find some that look to be similar size, similar style, but obviously not identical since it's an organic material. It's not artificial, so every little piece looks different. We're still trying to get sort of the same types of cuts in the cork, or those kind of things. Just give them a little bit of a coherent look, so they actually look like a unit. I like that on the battlefield, not only with the uniform, or in this case lack of uniform. I mean, it's in the word uniform, I guess. Look the same, but still, for war games like this, the one-page rules have released a handful of games for free that you can play. They are miniature agnostic, so even though I'm using these Robot Legion models from OPR themselves, I would recommend anyone who has any kind of miniatures, both fantasy and sci-fi, to go check them out. Simple rule system. It's available free in the basic set, a basic version. They've got a slightly more advanced. There's a couple of other rules, but nothing that is required to play. You can get those rules by supporting their Patreon. So one-page rules. The game looks solid from what I've seen and read of it so far. I haven't actually played it yet, so that's always fun, giving opinions on stuff you haven't tried yourself. But hey, I'm an engineer. I'm allowed to have opinions. Well, I was trained to have opinions about stuff I don't know anything about, as we used to joke about back then. But anyway, if you have a bunch of models, say maybe from a certain other UK-based company, then you can actually use a lot of those in either the fantasy games from one-page rules or the sci-fi games, which I think is cool. Being able to switch models around is super cool. I think I've even seen people making stats for Imperial Stormtroopers, so they can take their Star Wars Legion armies and play with those in the one-page rules system, which I think is super cool. I said they both have modern, or sort of not modern, sci-fi games, fantasy games, and they both have. Actually, don't know about fantasy. At least the sci-fi version has both a full-blown army game and a small skirmish game, which is what I prefer. I think they have one for fantasy as well. I would be really surprised if they didn't, but it's right now can't remember, to be honest. Anyway, that was a lot of chat about that. Go check them out. Print out some minis if you like. If you support them on Patreon, you'll get a ton of minis as a welcome package, as well as a very, very nice selection of models every single month. Or you can use the wonderful discount for my mini factory to just buy the old STLs. Did that, got so many robot files, STL files, that I've printed a handful of them. I think I've only printed like maybe a quarter, maybe a third of the different types of units and models and so on they have. So but hey, that's because I'm planning on playing the skirmish game and not the full army game. So but that's cool. So yeah, so that's that. The ones I'm starting out with here were sort of special weapons guys for the robots. They're sort of normal grunt rank and file troops either come with whatever normal weapon they have, or then they have like flamers, heavy plasma cannons, you name it, they probably have it. But I when starting out, I just wanted to get the similar looking, but differently posed at least, models over with, and then do the special weapons in this sort of second batch I did. So I'm not taking on too many minutes at a time, so I can still actually see the progress, and that served me well. I mean, in about 2 hours, I did all the core dry brushing on all 15 models. I mean, I don't mind going big for something like dry brushing, because it's just so quick, especially when the entire model is, you know, is dry brushed, you know, without being careful about only hitting certain areas or something like that. It's just kind of pour metallic stuff all over the miniatures. Cool, great. I can do that. That's quick. So yeah, other than that, I don't know. Yeah, we're gonna my painting sort of methodology for this is just like get it done. Some of these guys, like this one here, who is, I think he's a commander. Since I haven't played with them, I haven't really looked too much into their exact stats or even names or equipment or stuff like that. I'm currently just having fun printing them. So we need some kind of commander. I might actually do a bit more detail, should do a bit more detail on him, but at the same time I kind of have this feeling that I'd rather have some decently painted minis, which I honestly think these are. A whole batch of decently painted minis on the table, and then maybe paint, you know, another batch. I'm looking at places to get some cool STL files for orcs. Again, sci-fi orcs with lots of boulders and things that go daga daga daga. So a bunch of those. And then hey, I'll actually have 2 teams, so I can, you know, either invite people to play or just switch a little bit if I want to try different things or whatever. But I'd rather have 2 painted crews than a really well painted crew and then an unpainted crew. Especially for these kind of games, I mean, each squad or of crew or whatever is not gonna be like 15 minis. It's just to have a little bit to switch between. But if I were to spend my usual somewhere between 2 and 4 hours per mini on each of those models, I mean, it's gonna be about 2 weeks full-time painting, which would be fun, which would be cool. They would look so much better than these ones do, but I just wouldn't feel I got as much out of it as painting other minis to that standard. So yeah. Hmm. This is the boring part, just slapping on the white for the base. But in the first batch I did, I just went straight to orange over the black, and I mean, it worked. And there's gonna be the technical paint on top of it, so it's not like it's that much of a problem that it got, like, you know, really sort of dark muddy orange. Really, the black doesn't doesn't do much good for the orange. Just adding a thin coat of white, hopefully that will just make it easier, to get a more decent coating or coat of the orange. And the thing with the crackle paints, and the reason I want something other than black, is that when they crack, you will be able to see through the cracks. You'll be able to see whatever color was underneath, at least partly shining through. So and while black usually isn't that much of a problem because it just works as a shade, and it's still better to just have at least the right tone. So yeah. Okay, so even though I've got some non-base stuff to do on this dude, I'm still gonna paint the base here. Still not sure what to do with the other. I keep thinking of them, the Tri-Scorpion. I keep thinking of it as a robot, and these other as people. Because the anthropomorph. You know which word I mean. Part because they have 2 legs and so on. I kind of see them as people, individuals, and not as robots, even though I know they are. The entire faction is called Robot Legions. So thinking of the Tri-Scorpion as a robot within the Robot Legions, kind of, yeah, I don't know. My brain classifies things like that sometimes. But anyway, these people here. I mean, I got some stuff to do before I finish the base on him, but I might as well just get the white slapped down, since I'm already in white mode or whatever, painting white. Got the brush ready, got the paint ready. Painting handle is not big enough for that one. This was a Tri-Scorpion. I mean, this is the one I see as a robot, as opposed to the other ones that are robots but walk around on 2 legs. I see those as people. It is what it is. I actually posted a picture of the 5 sort of almost finished models, the one spinning. Posted a picture of that in one of the OPR Facebook groups, and got some really nice supportive feedback. Especially one guy said that he had been a little, he hadn't really known how to make them sort of really, I think, aggressive. I think that wasn't the word he used, but something like that. How look appropriately mean for a bunch of killer robots, that kind of stuff, because they, to be honest, remind me and a lot of other people a little bit about the Roger models or robots from the Star Wars 1 to 3 movies. So they kind of have this slightly comic-y, or at least association with something slightly comical about the heads. And somehow this dude felt that, with the capes and the dark metallic paint or whatever, I had actually managed to make them appropriately mean and nasty to look at. So Must have done something right. Now, painting these bases brings back painful memories of when I painted the Imperial Assault board game, which I really enjoyed playing and I really enjoyed painting it, except for the Stormtroopers, because painting that much white is almost insufferable to me. If you make even the slightest mistake or a pen brush or anything, it just lights up in the white paint, and there's no color, no variation. It's just more of the same, more of the same, more of the same, and then just a little bit of black sort of lining or shadow where the plates meet up. So it also reminds me of the time when I actually primed my minis by hand instead of using rattle cans or the airbrush. Back in high school, when I started painting, I didn't have a lot of money because I was in high school. I was like 15, 16 years old or whatever. Had a generous allowance from my parents, gotta give them that. But it's just compared to what miniature paints, and I was just starting out, and the paints themselves are expensive, and rattle cans were super expensive for me at least. I felt they were, so I kind of just painted by hand, and it never really covers fully evenly, especially because back then there were no YouTube videos about it. It's just the early to mid 90s. What I knew from very small number of people I knew that painted, and we never really talked much about it, to be honest. Kind of weird in a sense. Hey, I'm knocking over miniatures. But then there were a few White Dwarf magazines that had a few pictures of someone painting or a couple of simple steps, but I never grasped all the details about it. So I didn't know that you should thin your paints, and trying to prime a mini with a normal base color straight from the pot does not give a good result. Trust me on that one. You don't go out and try it just to see if I'm really correct about this. Just take my word for it. It is not worth spending time on. Thinning your paint is crucial to that kind of work, or to most kinds of work really. But I mean, the normal base coats, you get away with that, but priming it, I mean, it would get so uneven and it was terrible. And yeah, these ones here, the robot swarm, I switched down to a small brush because there's so many details with their legs, and I don't want to just slap on a bunch of white paint with a large brush, because then there will be way too many mistakes I have to fix later on. Painting over their legs, or the entire robots could probably disappear underneath the brush. So trying to keep it a little better. So that means small brush. So I'm not entirely sure what to do with the robot swarm and the base, because they're already mounted on a small hill, or probably a pile of organic goo that used to be living, breathing beings before the robots showed up. So I'm not entirely sure how best to base them. I want to keep it in sort of the red orangey style like the other ones. and at the same time, there's not really a lot of room for tufts or stuff like that. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. It's a challenge. Hmm. Yes, one thing to do about base. I mean, painting it like this gives me quite a nice sort of close-up of all the different parts. And I think it might actually work to just go for the, maybe not the crackle paint, but we start out with orange to have that base color. I mean, there's not really enough real estate to fully get the crackle paint to work, I think. It'll probably crack up a little bit, but nothing like what you see on the other models. So it's gonna need something else. But maybe just saying this is actually not a pile of organic goo. This is just, you know, a pile of dirt or whatever in the orange part, and then just skip the crackle paint, but still use the the gravel and the rocks and that kind of thing. Just glue some of it in. Some, you know, break down some tuft into smaller pieces, and yeah. Taking a step back from miniature painting, I want to give a shout out to another good friend of mine who recently released her 4th book. She started a new series with this one. It's called The Stellar Snow Job. It is it's a short novel. So it's nothing, you know, big or fancy. It's not like a huge, I mean, it's a huge world she's built, because it's the entire universe, or at least the galaxy. So it has all the fun stuff like faster than light traveling, stuff like that. So you can go to other star systems, which is always fun because you can bring in so many different locations. But no, it's I think it's called the Colibri Investigations series. I'm very sorry for not remembering it correctly, Marie. The author is Marie Howald. The book is called, as I said, The Stellar Snow Job. It's about an interstellar private investigator and his pilot and some other people. I'll not spoil too much. Let's just say they're up to shenanigans, out, you know, exploring strange new planets, investigating things. Yeah, all the good things you'd expect from that kind of, you know, book, that kind of themed. But as always with Marie's books, I really like her writing style. I like the prose she uses. It's got a nice sort of dry humor to a lot of her characters. That makes them, it makes a lot of the situations amusing, if not downright funny, without them being jokes, if you get my meaning. It's really cool to just write something where the writing itself has humor in it. It's also really fun to just, oh, fun is not the right word, but it's really, really wonderful to read authors who actually understand how to make their worlds come alive with very few words. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am very impressed with Tolkien's penmanship, the way he actually makes worlds come to life through romantic, poetic prose as much as the actual descriptions. But having whatever it is, 30 pages just describing how the Shire looks before it getting anywhere, that becomes, to me, since I have, for various reasons, I don't read that much anymore, not as much as I used to, I don't set aside as much time for it. So it's a lot of my reading time that goes on descriptions, and I actually prefer reading the stories. So in Marie's books, she's really good at making the world come alive in very few words, and I get very, very clear images, because what I think she's doing is just, you know, speculation is what I'm looking for. It's just speculation on my part. Is that what she's doing is she's describing whatever you need to actually know something about. So she'll describe that they arrive at a space station. She'll not explain if it's a torus, if it's a sphere, if it's a cube or octagon, or it's not an octagon, octacohedra, an 8-sided dice in space. She'll not explain those details because your brain will easily fill that out. At least mine does quite wonderfully, because she writes space station, and then my own imagination just starts overflowing with how the space stations look, and then it just settles on whatever seems right for this one. If it has some defining features or whatever, they will be described, but it's just, again, very briefly and just enough that you know enough to create your own mental images. That's how this kind of, this style of writing works for me, and I absolutely love it. So go check out The Stellar Snow Job by Marie Hovald. I will try to remember to leave a link in the description below, and I do not get any kind of percentages or anything like that. She's just a good friend who writes books despite suffering from post-concussion syndrome, which makes the fact that she's writing even more impressive, I think. So I'll leave a link, go check it out. I highly suggest reading her books. She has another series where the first one is called We Lost the Sky. It's a really, really interesting take on a post-apocalyptic world. It takes place in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, interesting choice, interesting place, but it's a nice break. Just that in itself is actually just a very nice break from all the other places where your normal average post-apocalyptic setting where it is. I mean, a lot of it is because it's Hollywood, and a lot of the culture we have, modern day pop culture, comes from America. It will be North America based, with the odd scene here and there in the rest of the world. So just having one set entirely in Italy was a nice change of scenery. Also, the fact that it's post-apocalyptic in itself means literally sort of complete change of scenery. Nothing is the same, and very desert-like, rough territory. So cool. Oh yeah, another thing I'm gonna do on the special weapons dudes. We have the normal rank and file troops just with special weapons. I'm gonna give them some kind of color coding to be able to easier see which one is the plasma cannon, one is the flamer, which one is, because a lot of the weapons I can see the differences when I'm looking at them up close, and even at arm's length, which is my standard sort of measuring length for painting miniatures for this purpose. I mean, I can see that one of them has a round barrel, the other one has a split barrel and stuff like that. But just to make it clearer, I'm gonna add to the shoulder pads, I'm gonna add some coloring, just using either contrast paints or speed paints from Army Painter, just to give them that extra feel. Maybe I should use washes instead, or thin down the contrast paint, because I want to get something like the effect we have on this guy here, where his blue, it's really subtle, but you clearly see it once you actually sort of look at the model. It breaks up the monotony of the metallic paint job. So at a distance, that helps. But once you actually look at him, it's very easy to see, okay, this guy's blue. I mean, all the other ones I did for that squad were all blue, but just different color, just in the shoulder pads or the back plating or whatever. It's just gonna add some color, add some variety, and you'll be able to see like the flamer is gonna be red. At least I think I know which one is the flamer. Yeah, it's gonna be that one. But I mean, there are 3 other ones, and I can't see which one is a heavy cannon, which one is a plasma cannon, which one is whatever the third kind is. So that's me not reading up on stuff, so it's just gonna get some coloring, make it easier to check. If I feel super advanced, I'm gonna give them, take one here, give them something for the shoulder pads, which are gonna be the same, just to identify them as being heavy weapons dudes, and then use the back plating there as the I'm this kind of guy. That's not a bad idea. Okay, that was a bunch of white. Let's do a bunch of orange. Once we've done all the orange on these ones, I think, just to let it settle completely, before I go into basing mode, I should also not have used that brush for mixing paints. That was not good, but it's fine. It's a good brush. It'll manage. No, but once we have all the boring stuff with the orange paint done, we're just gonna switch over and do something weird with the sniper. Basically just glue a bunch of green stuff, flock and small rocks, stuff like that. Cut up some tufts, put them on on his back or whatever, just to try and make him look like he's making a really sort of pathetic attempt at camouflage. Imagine you're a fighting robot. Yeah, you're a sniper, but you're shiny. To quote Bender from Futurama, "Bite my shiny metal butt. You're a robot, you're not in this to sneak and stealth." But I mean, this particular one, he got it into his head that, hey, I saw these human snipers, or elf snipers, or whatever. They were all covered in leaves and small twigs and branches and stuff like that. It was super weird and creepy. But it actually made them harder to look. I'm gonna do the same because I want to be a badass sniper too. I mean, some kind of glitch in its programming. Let's call it that. So that particular, well, it's not the model I'm painting here. It's another one, by the way. That particular sniper, he wants to really hide. Well, I was about to say he really wants to stand out, but he doesn't want to do that. He specifically does not want to stand out. So he believes the way of doing that is simply by copying a ghillie suit or stuff like that. So yes, that's gonna be fun to do. I mean, it's gonna mess up the miniature horribly, but what fun is it to have a hobby if you don't try it out, some new things, if you don't experiment, if you don't do weird shit? I mean, that's why we do these sort of fantasy or imagination-based hobbies, isn't it? To try something different, try something new. It's not to just, paint by numbers or connect the dots or anything like that. Well, you can connect the dots, but just connect them in new ways. Paint your own picture in the coloring book. Think outside the box. And I find that tinkering around with more than just paint is really good for the creative process. Painting a model is one thing that is actually quite a lot, paint by numbers, because you have the different aspects of the model, and even though you don't have like a full list of this color goes here, that color goes there, it's still, I mean, this is a weapon, this is an arm, this is a head. It's there. I'm not, designing the miniature from scratch, or making a painting from scratch or anything like that. But you'd still get to choose which colors to use and how to use it. But going for the bases, or with the sniper, just decorating the miniature, I think that brings sort of a more three-dimensional aspect. So it's not just slapping down appropriate paint colors in the appropriate places, or in some situations inappropriate paint colors and inappropriate places. It's more sort of like, add a rock here, make that bit of the model physically pop out from where it originally was, make that one a little bit bulkier, hide half the gun in sprinkled flock or whatever. Sadly, I don't have any orange flock. I mean, I have the tufts. I'm just gonna cut those two to pieces and just add small bits of that all over the place. So yeah. So that's gonna be a thing. Now, the reason I'm not too worried about sort of spilling over onto the rim of the base here is because it's way quicker to do it that way, and then at the end just touch up the rim with black paint. I mean, the base and mini itself were fully primed in black paint already, just standard Vallejo rattle can paint. So it has really nice surface to paint on, and covering up with black is usually pretty easy, especially if it's just, small patches, just giving it a quick slop of paint with the brush around on the rim at the end. It just sharpens it up, makes it a little bit more crisp, and sometimes the handle bits into the priming layer of paint. So it's always a good idea to do it anyway. So why bother spending a lot of time being super careful around the edges when you're gonna go through it anyway and fix it up, so that's easier. It's sometimes a little bit more difficult if you do the rim of the base in a bright color and you're doing something like black on the top of the base, because covering something dark with something shiny or bright, something bright, usually a little bit more difficult. Go. I don't really know why this base, neither the white nor the orange paint is really covering that well. Should probably have given it more white. Like switching to orange, you can really see the brush strokes here. So yeah, that's another fun thing about painting with the magnifying glass I have, is that once what I'm looking at is further away than the miniatures, it goes completely out of focus, destroys my depth perception, and actually makes it kind of makes me go double-sided. So trying to put down the minis requires me to actually look around the magnifying glass. Otherwise, I'm just gonna knock things over. On one of the first streams I ever did 2 years or so ago, I knocked over a bottle of paint. Ink actually. It was even worse because it's more less viscous, I guess it's called. It's thinner than paint, so it actually spread out over a surprisingly small area. To be honest, I got off lucky. It didn't hit any miniatures, so no paint jobs got ruined by it. But that was a bit of a mess to clean up afterwards. But it's fine. I think someone clipped it here on Twitch when I did it, and I watched it afterwards, and to be honest, I was pretty composed about the whole thing. It was kind of like, yeah, I spilled some paint, what are we gonna do? Gonna shout, be angry, or be horrified, or scared, or whatever. It's just, nah, just clean it up. Limit the damages, contain the free roaming paint, and just get some tissue paper, soak it up. Well, of course, the first thing to do is stand up the pot so you're not wasting more paint than necessary. I also know why the other miniatures, the bases, the larger bases, were a bit troublesome with taking the paint in a nice way. It's because the small ones I'm using for this guy here actually has a bunch of small bumps, so into the actual base. It's still called a plain round base, but it kind of has these small bumps along the way, which actually, to me at least, makes it somewhat easier to apply the paint. Or maybe it just hides the what's called the sort of the brush strokes and the inconsistencies in painting. Hides a little bit better on the bumps. Whereas, here you can easily see the brush strokes on the white, and that shows through on the orange because the orange is thin, so it's gonna need a second coat. And they all are, but just gonna let them dry for a bit. These models are super brittle. and really fine details. So I'm definitely gonna need some good foam trays for storing them. Otherwise, they're just gonna break all over the place. That would be a shame now that they're painted. I mean, the whole thing with you just being able to paint more minis is fine. It's just when you have to paint them afterwards, that's what's time consuming. Now, if I had been clever, I would have considered what I wanted to do with the bases when I actually painted the bases, because they were still separate from the miniatures when I did that. Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually did think about it, but I didn't think it all the way through. Because what I wanted to do is I actually wanted them to be playable next to these dudes here. So basically just wanted to go for black and just add the gravel, be done with it. But then after actually, you know, started working on the models, I realized that they're very different from the other guys. The other ones being some of the Necron Games Workshop models for Kill Team. And since they're so different, it kind of feels wrong to put them next to each other. Also because the normal warriors from the Necron series are modeled for 32mm bases, and the ones I'm using here are 25mm bases on the small models. I don't know why I keep saying modules instead of models, but I don't know, probably played too much EVE Online. But anyway, since they fit better on smaller bases. I mean, I tried placing, just for the fun of it, one of the small dude on the right. I tried placing him on the large 32mm base we have on the left, and it just looked wrong. There was just way too much space around the model, whereas this one here, his feet goes out to the edges, not really over it, except where I was terrible at gluing him to the base. Gluing it, it's a robot. So when I worked with them, I figured I'm not going to use them next to each other anyway. They're going to be different base sizes and so on. So I didn't want to go for just the same simple base. I actually wanted to have some fun. I wanted to do something I haven't seen done with these particular ones. I've seen a lot of snow themed, both models, paint jobs, and bases. In one of the Facebook groups for OPI, I saw someone kind of complaining, sort of in the good way complaining, just mentioning that they'd seen way too many blue and green themes for these ones here. So I wanted to do something different, and I figured, well, why not send them out into a sort of a red, dusty desert, like you'd find on Mars or whatever. I mean, we're outside of our own solar system. Hey, Corpse! Great to see you, man. What are you up to tonight? Oh, I'm good, thanks. I'm just doing a lot of really boring painting here. I've only been painted flat colors on bases for an hour. But hey, it needs to be done. So yeah, what are you up to? Is he working out and resting up after? The personal best today, so I'm proud of myself. Congratulations! Personal best are awesome. Good on you, and really good, resting up after working out. It's super important. Give your muscles time to relax and recuperate. Otherwise, you'll just overexert yourself and stop working out. So, resting is really good. So what personal best did you do? Just bench press or some other stuff like that? $80 kilos, that's super. Also, cheers, I'm on wine tonight. I haven't been able to get anywhere near that since I was a competitive swimmer in my teens. So yeah, 80 kilo. That's cool. Oh yeah, I mean, I just started working out again after way too many years where I haven't really, once in a while I'll, go down in the gym for a couple of times over a few weeks, but I never really had any sort of actual ongoing training for like 10, 15 years or so now. So when I started out this summer again, it's kind of like I can actually put, the some weights on the bar, but it's, yeah, almost just the bar itself, and then like small weight, the slices or whatever discs you have that you put on the end. So yeah, good on you. 80 kilos. Yeah, keep adding more to your diet. Just keep going. That's what you do. I mean, keep going. No matter what, just keep going and just resist the urge to just go back to being a couch potato. I don't know if you were, but that was my main problem when I finally got home from work. The couch was just so damn tempting. Yeah, yeah. I mean, back in my teens, I mean, there were so many things that were easier and simpler. Not just the whole. I was living at home and my parents did a lot of the grocery shopping, stuff like that. But also just the fact that there weren't that many things I was doing. I was, going to school and swimming, playing computer, playing role-playing games, and that was more or less it. There were no social media, there were no mobile phones, so it's just nothing really. So yeah, you're not cutting him a diet. Yeah, so pretty much see that's really cool. I mean, it's I think that's what trips up at least a lot of people I've seen trying to get in shape is that they change everything at the same time. And then once they realize that cutting out all the quote unquote bad stuff, they'll cut out alcohol, candy, all kinds of snacks, um, and then they'll only eat. I don't even know what constitutes healthy food anymore. And they'll cut back a lot on the food, so they eat a lot less and they start working out. I mean, for some people that works, but for so many people, they just drain themselves of energy because they both um, increase their exercise, so the energy they need to sustain themselves goes up. But at the same time, they cut down on how much they eat, i.e., how much energy they consume. So they really kind of switch both ends of those scales. So yeah, I'm old enough and comfortable enough to just go for rather having a few kilos too much. Um, if it means I have like excess energy and surplus and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Changing the diet, once you're into a sort of regular exercise or workout regimen, or sort of schedule or rhythm, yeah, sure. Then go for the diet if you feel like it. It may also just be that it's not even necessary. I found out kind of much to my own amusement and other people's horror that during during the lockdown period where I did not exercise at all, and that was after many years of not doing any real exercise, but still, taking the bicycle to work once in a well, basically on a daily basis, but still compared to the old days, that doesn't really count as exercise. It's just transport to me. But I was still up at around, sort of on a daily intake, on a daily basis, about 3,500 to 4,000 calories per day. So, and I mean, if based on my lack of exercise, I should probably have been down at around, I think, maybe 2,500. So I'm about 1.5% weight, 1.5 times too much. But I've also always had a high metabolism, and basically just, I mean, I grew in size when I stopped being a swimmer, and then when I stopped doing exercise, really in about 10, 15 years ago, I grew again. I mean, that's natural, but I was at a steady weight and a steady sort of what's it called, waist width, whatever, waist size, at those 3,500, 4,000 calories, because it just burned it off as heat. Whatever energy I didn't use for my muscles, it's just still burned off by far the majority of it. So it's that was kind of interesting to realize. It's also made it really easy, because once I started working out again, and not, well, I did make one sort of conscious change earlier this year, and that was to cut out sodas, because I was up to 1.5, 2 liters of regular Coke with sugar every single day. And I just wanted to change that, because it means I don't sleep well. I'm always sort of gassy because of the carbon dioxide in the bubbles. So I wanted to cut that out. And interestingly enough, what happened then was that since I cut out the major sugar intake, all the rest of the sugar kind of just went away by itself, because I didn't have the sugar craving. That died. So that was really easy to switch. It's been almost 4 months now. So that started some weight loss, but not a lot. Then I started training, and I think it just kind of rebooted my body and made it want to sort of reorganize itself. So I lost about 9 kilos in just over 3 months. Yeah. Shit, you go from 60 to 120, that's a huge span. But yeah, cutting out sodas. I actually, to be honest, the times I've tried cutting out, I did the whole diet sodas, Coke Zero, I think it was. And I actually found it a lot harder to not drink those than not drink regular sodas. And I did a little bit of research, well, not actual research, but looking into what research has been made on that. And it actually seems like the sweeteners, like aspartame and so on, because they're so strong, it actually means that they're far harder for the body to get away from again. It also means that they will actually sort of put your body into a state where you crave sugar, because you give it the artificial sweetener, and then the body is tricked into thinking that it's gotten a lot of carbohydrates, and then it starts burning them off, only to realize that it doesn't have carbohydrates, and then it tells your mouth that you should get some carbohydrates, because that's what we're burning now. And that kind of gives a weird spiral where people will switch to diet sodas to lose weight. But what happens, and I've seen this in friends and in myself when I did that, and they'll just get the sugar craving satisfied by eating candy or chocolate or cake or whatever, but still drinking the diet sodas, which is kind of weird effects. And because you often don't notice this. You just kind of go, yeah, but I've always, had candy. Now I got a soda. That's gotta be good. But if you then eat twice as much candy without really noticing it, then I mean the it still doesn't work. But cutting out, the regular sodas is hard because the body is just used to sugar, a lot of sugar. But yeah, I found it easier to quit that, and then because I didn't switch to diet sodas, then I didn't have sort of the same sugar craving. I wasn't used to eating sugar, and then I just, without having to sort of consciously do it, I just unconsciously, unconsciously, probably unconsciously. What do I know? I'm not a linguist. But I just unconsciously got rid of all the snacks I normally eat, and the candy or the chips and stuff like that. It just kind of just disappeared. Not completely, which is why I'm really happy, because it's not kind of an enforced I cannot eat any candy. It's just like I don't feel like eating candy. And that's, to me, is always the best place to be, because then, I mean, that's the easiest. If you don't feel like having a soda, or you don't feel like buying some candy, that's fine. And then on the occasions that you do, well, I just enjoy it that much more. Oh yeah, the caffeine. You can't stop drinking stuff with caffeine. That is true. That is another thing. Um, yeah, I think maybe I'm fortunate in that I never learned to drink coffee. I love the smell of freshly ground coffee beans, and I love the smell of freshly brewed coffee. But the taste, that's just not me. It's way too sort of hard and bitter. And when someone suggested that, oh, I should just put in, a lot of sugar and milk, I kind of went, yeah, but so why take this wonderful drink that can, be so great and smell so nice, and just thin it down with a bunch of other stuff just so you can drink it, when I'm not used to getting the caffeine. I mean, drinking coffee, if I wanted to do that, it should be for the flavor, and not just to get the caffeine boost, because that wears off after time anyway. So you don't drink coffee as a pre-workout. The energy drinks, oh yeah, the energy drinks are killers in that. And they also have so much other stuff in them that, yeah. I don't know if they still use stuff like taurine, I think it was called, in the Red Bulls. It's probably an artificial energy sort of booster thing they made specifically for the Red Bull with taurine. Or maybe they named the Red Bull after it, I don't know. But I mean, those kind of things will also just, to me at least, they'll mess up my system. I have a very low tolerance for caffeine, to the extent that I think 3 times in my life I've had an Irish coffee. Just drinking an Irish coffee, not much more alcohol, maybe a glass of wine for dinner or whatever. Just rounding it off with a small Irish coffee. And at 2 a.m., several hours later, I'd just be lying in bed, staring at the room, and feeling my heart going boom, 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 boom. And I kind of just went, after that happened a couple of times, it just went, no coffee for me, not even Irish coffee. So yeah. So that also means that's, again, really easy for me to stay away from. So I'm kind of lucky with a bunch of these things. I'm super happy that I don't have that many problems. I mean, I've had so many years where I drank too much sugar and ate too much sugar, candy and snacks and chips and stuff. But yeah, actually seems to be kind of working, without being forced. So that's, I think it's healthier in the end, even though that makes me sound boring, but gonna be here for a long time, and only have, what, 2 or 3 bodies to burn off. So... So that was that, and that was... You are hard on the candy then to stay awake. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you want to stay up late, so you have the caffeine, you have the sugar, if it's candy or soda or whatever, and yeah, I mean, I've done that, and it worked until I actually, you know, had to realize that I kind of had to keep eating it just to keep going, or I would crash and be way too tired during the day. So yeah, so that's always interesting. Okay, so what you probably didn't hear, yeah, because you weren't there, is that I'm trying to do something fun for this sniper here. I'm also trying to remove the supports I did not remove because I'm an idiot and lazy. No, but basically, the other models have these really wonderful cloaks. And this one has nothing. I mean, I could do a lot of coloring in on the different parts of his armor. Oh, let's see, more supports. I have been super lazy with this model. I'm usually better than that. But I figured instead of, you know, trying to give it a paint job or make some kind of uniform or squad colorings or whatever, I figured he's gonna make his own ghillie suit. So I'm gonna basically just cover him in basic material and just stuff small, you know, pieces of rock and a whole ton of other stuff. Which reminds me, I bought some new basic material, but they're downstairs. So let's take a 2-minute break while I go pick up my new supplies from downstairs. Don't go away, I'll be right back. Right, so back again. What we have, all the stuffs I got. Again, I was thinking about doing a snow thing. I've been meaning to for a while, so I got some snow sprinkles. I have no idea how all of this works, but I'm gonna be playing around with it on other models at some point. So, but no snow for these dudes. That goes out there. I have some clear water effect. I got some called Pacific water, which even on a white undercoat, it goes almost pitch black, so way too dark. But this one should be clear, so I could actually use, you know, the coloring underneath it. And since I'm not really doing a lot of terrain, I've got like for a bazillion miniatures here. Maybe do a little bit of that on the sniper. I don't know. And then, yes, I bought a pack of dust and small rocks. The reason I did it is that it's this has been cleaned and it's properly sized and all that. I could go out in nature, find something, but then you don't really know what you get from, you know, microorganisms, bacteria, whatnot. And I either have to sort of give it some kind of heat stuff or whatever. So a little bit of that as called flavor variation, and then some flock, either 2mm or 4mm static grass. And I think I'll not use a lot of the static grass because I'm gonna add that later, because I just today ordered what's called a static grass applicator, which is a weird machinery. I've never used it before, but it's basically something that uses static electricity. So it makes a differential between, or potential shift between the base or whatever you're coating and then where the flock falls from, which means that you actually get the grass standing up instead of just lying in bunches. To give an example of a base where I also didn't use static grass, so that's not really good. But anyway, this one here, all the grass is just kind of lumped down. It's not really standing up. Yeah, thank you. It's pretty cool. I'm really happy with the paint job I did on these ones here. So, and it's a cool mini in itself. No, but I wanted to do that. It's probably gonna be another couple of weeks before it shows up, you know, the applicator. But then I can go back and just adding the sort of the spiky grass to the sniper is gonna be fun. But now we're just gonna do weird random shit on him. So let's do here. We're just gonna I'm actually gonna use a pencil for applying super glue on him, which is weird, I know, but it works. I'm also gonna get this light out of the way because I don't need the magnifying glass. See, this is where I realized that I don't have a container for this, so once I cut open the back, it's probably gonna spill everywhere at some point, but I'm gonna fix that somehow. Okay, back opened, didn't cut off my fingers. But we also have these tufts there. Yeah, I should be able to cut them into pieces. I mean, some of the smaller ones might look good on him. I still want to cut it. I want to cut things today, so that's what we're doing. We have this. I'm just gonna open up all of it and just dab glue here, add a little bit of that, add glue here, add a little bit of that. I mean, cheat and use. I don't have anything better. I'm just gonna use the lid for some of these. Here we go. To put it somewhere where I don't knock it over. There. I mean, this is just, I mean, this guy Luke who does it's a Geek Gaming Scenics line of products. I've never used him that much before, but what I like about his attitude is he's a YouTuber who started his own basing material line, and he's this super geeky, just experimenting with stuff and being awesome at it. And he's just the kind who's not afraid to just say, hey, we're gonna do this, and then he tries to do a full 3x3 foot battle mat, and he just sprinkles stuff over it just to go, oh, so that didn't work, well, we'll do the next one instead. It's just really inspiring to watch. And then he did some scenic terrain stuff like this, and it's quite clear to see that this is a guy who's been working with it for years. I mean, the army painter stuff I have, it's also the same. It's also really good, but this is a geek who's really nerdy when it comes to all these things. Um, and it's just when he says, okay, what is the perfect basic material? You know you're gonna get some good stuff. So here we have pieces of cork. I'm gonna use some of the smaller ones to simulate large rocks or pieces of rubble. Probably not gonna use that on the mini here itself, but just on the base. But let's just get some of it out. I think it's a little bit too large to really use them. I'd rather use some of the smaller stuff like this one here. And we need to cut a couple of tufts. I mean, that one there might work, but it's just too big for me. It's just doesn't sit right. I just need to do. There we go. Half size. Do that. Dip it in some super glue and add it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do like a ridge back. Yay, I glued it to my tweezers. Now that's fantastic. No, I've been joking about gluing my hands together or fingers together often enough. So gluing my tweezers to a small piece of tuft seemed like the way to go. I mean, it's almost like it's got a small mohawk going there. Yes, I've talked so much about gluing my fingers together, but I never actually do it, so... Yeah, that actually works. I was visiting one of the Danish miniature fantasy role-playing game stores a while back, and someone had taken like a combat mech. I think it's probably one of the Warhammer 40k mechs or walkers, whatever they're called, and he had literally given it sort of a furry finish, like you'll use like a throw rock on your couch or whatever. You've done something like that and just added that to most of the model. It looked insane and hilarious at the same time. But then, once you actually looked at it, you kind of couldn't help going, that actually works. And it looks good because it is a nice sort of blue fur on a big ass combat mech. There. I mean, it looks a little weird, but I actually think it works. I'm probably gonna go too overboard with all of this. I don't really care. I mean, this is gonna be a concept mini now. Just how much weird shit can I put on a mini that doesn't normally belong on a mini? That's the end goal here. He needs something down the back. If he's hunched over or sitting down, he needs to be able to cover himself. So of course, how's your streaming going? Still active? Fridays mostly. Now, you're working out, doing therapy. That's good. I mean, therapy is like training for the psyche, so that's also a good thing to do on a regular basis. Yeah, but I mean, time going into health is really well spent, especially mental health. Uh, it's one of the best thing I did 3 years ago after crashing really hard with stress. One of the best things I did was actually get a psychologist to help me, and then I stayed on and still have monthly sessions with her just for even when things are going well. It's really great to have someone to do that kind of sparring with, and just talking about stuff that goes on in your life. And it's not one of your friends, it's not someone you have to be able to look in the eye afterwards. You can say whatever you feel like you need to say. And the other way, I mean, the therapist can also just say whatever they need to say, because it's not a friendship. It's not that kind of relation. It's a professional relation aimed at helping you. So there's no give and take. It's just fully focused on you. That's been really helpful for me. And even in times when things are going super well, it's still good because there's always something to think about. So yeah, so that works out well for me. Yeah, you're psycho training in more ways than once. And yes, I'm being super sensible and actually having some water along with the wine. Yeah. These tufts are messing me up, but it works and it looks good, so we're gonna keep going. Not getting so. I also think we're almost there. I mean, that is a very little beast we've got here. Just do that. That's a nicely covered little robot sniper. Now it's got the shoulder pad. I think we need... What do we need for the shoulder pad? We need rocks. That's where the rocks gotta go. Yeah, I mean, it's super weird doing this because it feels like I'm completely messing up the model and just doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing. Then just putting him down, it gives him such a distinct look that it really works. I mean, it's still got his head popping out. Yeah, exactly. He just rolled around. He just covered himself in super glue, rolled down a hill, and stood up and started, going to work. But I don't think I'm going to do anything on the legs because the legs are really thin. Should I? Should I just put some on the legs? I'm going to put some gravel on him first, though. That seems like the good place to start. And we're going to do that. I'm just going to place it up here, and then I'm just going to sprinkle over it, because that always makes it easier. And I'm not going to put that in glue. No. Then people can't see me, so... good thing about this super glue is that it is thin enough that it actually flows down a little bit, so I don't have to be that precise. I can just add a drop and then it just evens out on its own. Probably should also start, laying down the actual gravel. So now it's not all gonna be glued, but I just like to just add enough and just gently just tap it off. It's sticking to all the small hairs. That's fine. That's super fine. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of got the ridge going down. That's getting somewhere. What do you know? One of my absolutely harebrained, silly ideas worked. So let's actually take some of the lighter stuff here on the back. Maybe not that super big rock. Just a little bit of that. Just sort of for the, covering it up a little bit. That. Oh, and that one over there. The shoulder pad. We can do fun stuff with this one. We can do. Yeah, let's do a larger piece. Like there. And just dab on some more. I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm not really paying much attention to anything else other than the glue and the stuff here. Then we sprinkle on more of this stuff. Yeah, I think I need to go in and just hand pick some of this off once it's fully set and dried. I mean, it's getting caught on the small hairs of the tufts, which looks a little weird because then the rocks suddenly the rocks are flowing in the air, which is not really the look we're going for. But yeah, I mean, it's still. Sometimes the minds of madness makes the most sense. But, well, you're not wrong. Now, if I was going for comic relief, I would place a tuft right at the top of his head and just giving him sort of a spiky helmet. It would probably also be the best kind of camouflage to get. But at the same time, I just can't get myself to do it, to be honest. It's just, nah. That's just a little bit too much. I'm just going to stick with this because he's kind of looking like his top half is just a regular, base. Oh, you want me to put the tuft on top of him? On top of his head? I kind of want to do it as well, but I also don't. There we go. I don't know if I am professional or not. I don't know. Probably am. So anyway, I was not done with that. I'm gonna do the other bases now. Also, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make bases for all the other ones, so I'm just gonna focus on this guy and get him done. It's gonna be a nice little presentation video of him. Now we have the super fun part, because somewhere over here behind where they're spinning, there is a blob of super glue. And I do not want to accidentally put down my hand in the middle of that, because that's gonna be bad, but it's there. So if I do mess it up, I totally called it ahead of time. So yeah, let's see. Just gonna give the base some more orange, because it did. I kind of feel like it needs it. So painting handle. Oh, by the way, Corpse, do you know the game Deep Rock Galactic? They've created a board game based on the computer game, and they funded it with a Kickstarter, and part of the Kickstarter campaign was sending out STL files for the 4 main characters from the game, and these are super oversized. I mean, if that's the size for the board game, it's gonna be an awesome epic board game. But these are sort of unscaled minis. I just printed them out because me and some of the ones from the Incorrigible Party, we played a bunch of Deep Rock Galactic at some point. So I wanted to paint them out. I'm gonna paint them or print them out, and also paint them at some point. But they're not scaled up. That's literally the size they came in, unless I messed up something in the print or in. But I mean, that's pretty straightforward. You just open the file and print it. So yeah, so it's pretty cool. And one of the reasons I backed the board game is that it is a co-op game. The Deep Rock Galactic game itself is also co-op. You're working against the environment, you're mining deep into an asteroid, getting all the good stuff out, shooting some bug monsters, picking up loot, finding fun stuff, finding small flowers and fungi to brew beer from, stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna be super cool painting up these mini, well, not so minis really. Okay, so that was more orange on the base, which is perfect for that. It just needs to dry out. And then we can do the other stuff. In the meantime, more experiments is more goodly. So let's try some of the splash gel. I want to say splash gel water effect. There. Also a price tag. Expensive stuff, but then again you get a whole can of it, pot of it. So it's a lot. Now I need to get the foil off. Okay, that actually worked. Okay, so this is not really flowing at all. I'm curious about this. It probably takes a few hours to settle, but I mean, the concept, as far as I understand it, is, oh, that's why it's a gel. Of course, it says gel on the pot, but of course that's so you can actually shape it and make small ridges, simulating waves, and then it should dry up clear. I don't know if you can see it. Can we get sort of, yeah, there you can see kind of the three-dimensional effect of it. So that seems cool. Let's do another blob. I mean, I'm literally not using anything at all, big compared to how big this size is. See, can we actually do like a huge wave? Okay, I promise I'm not gonna go into Close Encounters of the Third Kind mode here, but it is tempting. Just gonna see what happens if we just make kind of a spike in the middle. Just want to see how it dries up and how firm it becomes. So anyway, that was a good way to wait for the paint to dry. I mean, if this is, I mean, I've seen some people use effects like this, and if it works, I mean, you can do so much fun with the bases once you have that, once you figure out how to use those things properly. And a lot of it is also meant to be used for dioramas, or, you know, the full, whatchamacallit, yeah, you know, the terrain for war games and stuff like that. But it's super cool to also use it on bases. Need to shake up the Martian special effects stuff. Oh, I need to put... Never mind, not yet. We need to compose this one. I mean, he's standing in a lot of... I'm not going to use the crackle effect at all on this dude. I think he's basically just going to be in rocks and... Oh, you're also playing Factorio. Oh, I didn't play Factorio itself. I played Satisfactory. So I don't really know how... If it's kind of the same timeline. What I liked about Satisfactory was that it was so insanely huge. I mean, the sizes of everything was just bizarre. And especially once you get to the space elevator, it just plops down and something like, I don't know, 50 meters across or something silly like that. It actually takes quite a while to run around it. But yeah, cool. Congrats. And tweezers, rocks, gravel. Let's just do some super glue on the base. It's easy to just add the super glue directly. Probably also gonna dry up on me, so I don't know. This is not how I normally do bases, so we're really making fun shit here. So that's a bunch of glue on the base, and it's just a matter of sticking things on it. Oh, I have really good news. I found a job. So I will no longer be a unemployed bum streaming miniature painting. I will be an employed bum streaming miniature painting. It's top view. The best part of FFA and mod community. Mods are so fun. Makes game a lot harder, but adds so much content. It's crazy. That is super cool. It's so amazing and inspiring what people actually do, you know, modders. So much creativity. Sometimes I kind of go, why don't they make their own games? They'd be so good at it. But then I also realize that in a way that's kind of what they're doing. I mean, they're just using the existing game as an engine, like, you know, Unity or whatever. They just use the game as the engine, which makes perfect sense, you know, once you think about it. So scattering of rocks. Let's add some tufts. I mean, even though the tufts here, they do have glue to them, so you can actually just lift them off. And just lift them off. Where do we go? This piece of paper here. But I find that actually giving them some super glue is a really good idea, because then you don't risk them just popping off at all the wrong times. It's gonna be so many of these tufts because he's hiding, he's sneaky, he's stealthy. So he's got all the tufts. Including that one there. And now we're just gonna sprinkle smaller rocks down here to finish him off. And I mean that's one of the weird things about bases, and one thing I couldn't really do in the beginning when I did them is that it's in many ways it's so easy to make that it almost feels like you're cheating, but at the same time you need to know some techniques for basing, and then it goes really quick. I mean, it takes literally no time to do something like this, and it adds so much to the miniature, so it kind of feels like cheating, just spending a couple of hours painting, and people go, yeah, it's good looking miniature, good paint job, stuff like that. And then you add the base and people are blown away. Also from the love of the game itself, making additional content. We're back to the mods talk. It shows lots of love from the community. Exactly, and that's what makes it so visible that there is a living game and a living community around it. That's a huge help. So yeah, definitely mods, and again, using the game as the engine and then modding the crap out of it just makes perfect sense. So and also because creating a full game from scratch is a really tall order for anyone, but also expensive. You need a lot of people, you need a lot of all kinds of people, you need marketing and funding, and then why not just use a game that works and is good and then just do things with it. That makes perfect sense. Of course, I haven't really done a lot of modding since I did mods and maps and stuff for both Quake and Doom 2, and are we talking the original Quake from 96, 97? I think 96, and we're talking Doom 2 from before that. And yeah, mods add so much good to a game. I mean, mods really does a good job of taking a good game and making it even better. Okay, once all of this is dried, I really need to touch up the stuff that's lodged in the tufts. Probably just gonna cut it off. It's gonna be fine. Yeah. Hey. That went well. So, there you have it. Maybe get a little bit more, a little bit better light. There we go. Oh yeah, so you're only a factory maker and a survivalist and a ground engineer, and now they want you to build spaceships on top of that. That's, yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of things. So yeah. He looks so different from when he was just a boring, straight, up and down robot with a rifle. It's a tall order for someone who has just figured out how to make nuclear processing. You know, you're not supposed to tinker with those kind of things in your bedroom. That's, you know, for, you know, trained professionals only. Now for the fun part, getting the rocks back into this bag. We're gonna do this on camera because I'm gonna mess up horribly in a little bit. Nah, and basically I just do like this. It's gonna be fine. There we go. Easy peasy. Now I'm left with a bag with an even larger opening, giving me even more opportunities to spill things all over. I really need to find a small container for that. You're a goblin artificer. I do what I want. Well, go for it. What could possibly go wrong? So yeah. What I'm gonna make a really nice presentation video of this dude here. Clean him up a little bit first, I think. Because the floaty rocks at the bottom are a little bit too weird. Fortunately, they come off easily. I just need to scratch them a little bit. I need to clean it up with some black on the rim. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. So anyway, I think I will leave it at that. I'll post a presentation video to YouTube later tonight. But for now, it's been super fun. Thanks for stopping by, Corpse. Oh yeah, you should never actually start thinking about what you're doing, because then you start realizing that there's physics somewhere and then things stop working. Anyway, that will be it for me for tonight. Leave him there to look at him for a little bit. Yeah, Corpse said, I love the Warhammer 40k stuff, that the humans believe that they are the most stellar race, but when you think about it, orcs have the absolute strongest beliefs. Yeah, orcs, I always loved the Games Workshop take on orcs. They're so bizarre and insane, both in fantasy and 40k, and I just love the concept that they just, strictly by believing enough, do the craziest things. Just the fact, a concept like the Goblin Doom Divers from your old fantasy battle days. You take a goblin, give him a pointed metal hat, bat wings that cannot possibly work in any way because they have a wooden frame, and then you make this huge slingshot that he just runs back into and just flies up over the battlefield, tries to flap his wings to fly and kind of steer his way down to wherever the enemy is, and just splash into them. And yeah, wood and iron into spaceships. It's just, it's not possible, but that makes it so much fun, because the whole concept of that race is we do it by believing it. So, anyway, Corpse, I will be off. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, you too. Have a great night.